function follows design, or design follows function. So that was the thought behind the design of all the Dyson products. I spent 7 years at Philips here in the Netherlands. It's a Dutch company with a beautiful heritage of over 100 years and a history of innovations, including CD. Does anyone remember those? DVD players, and many, many more products which improve our everyday life. I'm pretty sure that the lighting that we're enjoying here is also by Philips. IKEA. I think very few homes nowadays that don't have a single IKEA product. And then I moved on to Nikon. So really focusing on the images, on the visual side of things, and sharing images, which is what we do in digital marketing, isn't it? And after that, I decided to spread my wings and try something completely different. I changed industries and started working for L'Oréal. So L'Oréal is all about beauty. It's about sharing beauty with the world. And that brings me to a collection, which is a yellow collection. So by now you might be wondering, what is the red thread? What is the link between all of these things? And it's obviously not the color yellow. I do love yellow. Such a happy color. But for me, the red thread is really the innovation and technology, attention to design and making things beautiful and yet meaningful. And then we have a next slide, because there's no products on it anymore. I don't deal with products nowadays, I deal with people. So for me, it's about meaningful conversations and about talking about stuff that really matters, that keeps me busy. And that is also my life passion and a purpose. So my mission is to help people recognize their inner beauty and also to live the life which is fulfilling their potential. But enough about me. While I was asked to hold this keynote today, I did what probably every digital marketeer would do. And I asked myself the question, what would Steve Jobs say? So many slides in these presentations filled with Steve Jobs. And I came up with that. We are in Amsterdam. So when you're reading Never Get High on Your Own Supply, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, doesn't that sound like something that a drug dealer would say? So I see some people taking pictures. Please do not, and do not quote me on that. Steve Jobs did not say that, obviously. But what he did say in one of the interviews he gave in 2010 is that he never allowed his children to use an iPad. And that makes you wonder, doesn't it? Why would the people who design devices are so mindful and so careful about letting their own children use them? And he's not the only one. All the other executives of the CEO of the Silicon Valley companies also admit to the very same. They're very, very restrictive when it comes to the use of devices. Why would that be? Well, they know better than anyone else what the side effects of those are. So, going back, you know, I do love hardware. You will see a lot of pictures of products there. But let's just go on a little journey. Let's go on a little journey to the invention of print, then many, many, many centuries until something else happened, and that was the electric telegram. Then there was the photo camera, and that is subliminal advertising, you might call it. That is obviously not the original camera. That is the first one of Nikon. I do stay a fan of all the brands that I've worked for, so that is actually a model released in Occupy Japan. That's actually what it's made in Occupy Japan. And that's one of the first mass cameras for the mass market. But typewriter, 1829, we started to type. Then we started to use the telephone in 1876. And the phonograph came shortly afterwards, and then came, bam, the light bulb. That is also not the Edison light bulb, that is the Philips light bulb. So again, I couldn't help myself. Radio, again, that is a model from 1931 of a radio. Television, invented in the US, hey, that is one of the revolutionary products from Philips made in the Netherlands in 1951. And a magazine. And by now you're wondering, where is all that going? Why is that also an invention? Because imagine it took us between Gutenberg's invention of the press until 1923 to be able to circulate the news on a weekly cycle. Before that, we were never able to print a newspaper with a faster cycle for people to reach it and the information not to get out of date. So that is really a groundbreaking thing. And it was only 100 years ago. 100 years ago. All right, IBM, personal computer, we all know that, and then the World Wide Web. So from then, the inventions got a little more elusive, so the groundbreaking stuff is less in the hardware arena and more on the invisible side. So then came the social media, the 20s, with all the Facebook, YouTubes, Twitters, and Instagrams. And as those became available to us, somehow more and more of our time went just to be spent on the social media. So you see, we went from 90 minutes in just 10 years to 147 minutes a day. Now let's talk about two things. Why do we actually check so often the news, social media? There's two things that come to play, and one of them is the need for information, which sounds sensible. I mean, it's a survival instinct. We need to know what is going on. We need to stay up to date. And the other one is the fear of not having it. So what if I don't know and there is some kind of disaster and there is some kind of danger and I'm oblivious to the fact that it's coming my way? So, our natural curiosity, our wanting to know, our need for information fed by survival instinct. When we look at the information, we try and interpret it. So even that very simple drawing from The Economist, when we look at a graph, we try and make sense of it. But two people may look at the very same thing and interpret it very differently. Here's another example. What is really going on in the world and how do we interpret that? And then let's look at the fear. We don't like to look at the fear, so I chose a funny character from the Moomins to make it a little less scary, but yeah, it does represent fear. What are we afraid of? So there's 4 types of fear that really fuel our need and our want to stay up to date and check our phone constantly. And that is really the fear of change. What's going to happen? What's going to change? How is that going to influence my life? That's the fear of the unknown, because we don't know, we cannot prepare. Then there is the fear of loss of control. Oh, if I don't know what's happening, if I'm not prepared, how am I going to prepare myself for what's coming? And that really boils down to the fear of death, because that is the thing that we're most afraid of. So what do we expect from the news? What do we expect from social media? What do we expect from our newspaper, if anyone still reads those, or the website that you use, your daily news fix? There's 4 things. So first of all, safety. Before you go and check the news, you actually really want to feel safe. And your hope is that after I've checked the news, I will feel better. I will know what is going on in the world, and I will feel in control. Second, actionable steps. What do I need to do? If there is a disaster, which steps do I need to do? What is the protocol in this situation? 3, closure. We want to be at peace. We want to know. We want the topic to be done, and we want to be at peace, have a peace of mind. So the information loop needs to be closed. We need to have clarity. And 4th, hope. Because that's what really feeds us. Does it bring me hope? So first of all, when we look at the safety and the state of the current news. So remember the looming dark clouds over. The news are not really filled with safety, are they? There's a lot of fear-mongering. The titles are written as clickbait, and they're basing on our fear, because we do read things that cause more fear because we want to prevent certain situations. So it's our risk management. 2, call to actions. When you think of a news media website, think a little. Are there many call to actions? We're all marketeers, you know a call to action needs to contain a verb, needs to be short, needs to fit neatly within the button. So are there many call to actions? Usually not. But when you look closer to the sides, there's usually lots of call to actions, but they're not really from the news article, they come from the advertising. So what are the real call to actions from the media outlets? The marketing messages. And then the third one is the closed loop, our need to have closure, to not keep things open, to not have loose ends. So while we have our innate need for closure, media and social media as well, they are fed on the open loop mechanism. So we try and close the loop, but we do not succeed, and it remains open, and that makes us come back for more because the information loop. So where we are is a never-ending story. Now, I try to throw in something lighter because it can get a little gloomy. So what is hope? Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings in the tune with the words and never stops at all. Because hope is always there. But what happens when this constant anticipation and feeding of hope becomes detrimental to our mental health, to our well-being, to our ability to concentrate and function in the daily world, which is so overstimulated. So that is when information becomes stress formation. And because of the information that we cannot process and the sheer amount of it, it actually becomes stress. So the downside is really the mechanism of addiction. So here are some staggering stats. And you can say, well, these are all the numbers. And they don't really apply to me. They don't apply to my country. There's a very easy way to check which numbers are your numbers. If you go to your iPhone, check the settings, and then check the screen time up, it will become very, very evident how many times a day you pick up your phone, how many notifications per day you receive, how much time you spend on which platform. But when we look at that numbers, that some people, heavy users, they touch their phone 5,000 times a day. That is really mind-blowing. And then the average in the US time just unlocking the phone is 150, and 11 time is the time spent in between using the phone. So for all of you who managed to not to look at your phone, you're already above average, and congratulations on that. Now, it would not be a digital marketing talk if I wasn't to share any stats with you. So here is the slide. 147 minutes is what we spend on a daily basis on a global scale using social media. And interestingly, the Netherlands are just here on your right-hand side with only 81 minutes a day. But then there are countries on the very right-hand side, such as Nigeria, with 247 minutes. So that's incredible. That's over 4 hours a day. All right. So now that we're half through the presentation, and you've been sitting very patiently, I would like to ask everyone to stand up. And You see, we'll do a little exercise. It's going to be a short exercise. Pick your poison and pick wisely. So think of the news site that you check typically when you have a little time in between the meetings. Maybe you're in the lift, maybe you're on your Uber on the way to work. The site that you go to most often for your daily news fix. And I would like you to pick the phone now and check that site. But you're not allowed to react. So you're not allowed to press a heart. You're not allowed to forward it. You're not allowed to make a screenshot. You're not allowed to share it with your best friend. Just have a look. The way you do on your way to work, in between the meetings. Just scrolling, reading, getting informed, making sure you're up to date. So you're an educated, intelligent person, you're a citizen of the world, you need to know what's happening. Okay. All right, so we're reaching the end of the time. So once you're done, you can put your phone down. Yeah, time's up. So we put the phone down. And now I'd like you to answer a few questions for yourself, based on this little 1-minute experiment. Did the messages really fulfill your needs? Safety. After reading this piece of news, do I feel safe and in control of the situation? So the people who think, yes, actually, I really feel safe and in control of the situation, stay standing. The rest of you, I'd like to encourage to sit down. Okay, that's interesting. Second, did I get concrete instructions on what to do? Were there actionable steps? All right, so those who can say yes, please stand standing. The rest, please sit down. 3, closure. Is the information loop closed, or is there something that is still pending? Do I still need to find out? Can I say with all certainty, I know all I need to know? Okay, I see still 3 people standing, 2 people, 1 person. And 4, hope. Does the message give me hope? Congratulations, there's 1 person left standing in the room. I think in the break, everybody will ask you, what is it that you read? We want that. All right. So I asked you about the concentration. Concentration is a bell curve. The less stimuli you have and less concentration you have, you end in the boredom zone. If there's too much stimuli and the concentration is low, you end up in a stress zone. And right in the middle, smack on the top, is the often unattainable sweet spot of focus and flow. So keep that graph in mind throughout your workday to ask yourself, where am I? Am I in the boredom zone? Am I in the stress zone? And how much of my daytime can I actually spend in the focus and flow? And then there's several things that can happen to pull us out of our concentrated efforts. That's insufficient stimuli, something's really boring and long. Excessive internal stimuli, so that's actually your mind talking to you, all the thoughts in your head. Then there's excessive external stimuli, somebody shuts the door and then you're distracted by the sound. And then there's insufficient brain fuel. So that might be just you being tired or hungry. So continuing on the topic of food, the cocktail effect is one of the very phenomena that I think we all experienced. You are there at a buffet or at a cocktail party, and you're just thinking, oh, about the sandwich, how many calories is really healthy to have, and then you hear her name, someone says Monika. And your attention wanders, like, oh, are you talking about me? So it's not that the person at the very, very end was talking louder all of a sudden. And there are many conversations happening at the same time. But all of a sudden, just the name was the trigger for you to get completely out of what you were doing or thinking, and to your attention to immediately shift to what was being said. So this explains a lot about how we are being triggered by certain things. To continue on the food note, what is the healthy diet of digital media consumption? So it remains a balancing exercise, and we think we all try and figure it out between fasting and binging. So media fasting, putting out your phone, or media binging, and spending a whole day just watching things and scrolling and reading. 3 questions to you on this trend. So the latest fashion fad, which emerged somewhere around Corona time, where we're all constrained and social interactions moved to the digital sphere, work moved to purely home office, even family relations moved to apps such as Zoom or house party. So then it all became a little too much, and we saw a trend of people actually going on a detox. So it became the latest fad. So how many of you have ever deleted a social app, or which app have you deleted? And then how long were you able to stick around with it until you installed it back on? That tells actually a lot. So that is a self-reflection question. Now, I obviously don't expect answers. When we look at the real stats, so that you can compare your own experience to the reality, that is a very recent survey conducted in the US. And what we learn is that the demographic that say is most prone to delete the apps, the social media apps, are actually the millennials. And there's also one interesting fact that jumps out of that survey, is that women often start with intention, so they do delete it, but they're also more prone to reinstall it again. Whereas for men, it's often a more permanent process. So when they do delete it, it's like, okay, I'm done with it. I move on, I do something else. So that's a trend which probably many of you are watching with a somewhat fear, because there's large budgets invested in social media and how to go about it. I don't have a clear answer to that. So I don't have answers to many questions. I also don't have key points, key takeaways, but I do have key questions, because I believe it all starts with self-reflection. So I would also like to leave you with questions. To quote Tony Robbins, successful people ask better questions, and as a result, they get better answers. So soon enough, you will return to your daily life and to your daily office routine or work from home routine. And hopefully you'll have a lot that you learned during this conference to discuss with your colleagues and peers, and maybe family members or friends. So here are the key questions that I would like you to figure out for yourself and answer to. 1, am I getting high on my own supply? So if you're producing marketing messages, if you're producing social media campaigns, are you able to distinguish where you're falling into the addiction? When is enough enough? Where is it serving you, and when is it becoming detrimental to your productivity and also to your well-being? 2, do my messages, do the messages that I as marketeer put out in the world induce more hope in the world, or do they induce more fear? And what kind of world do I want to contribute to? 3, do they fulfill my audience's need for safety? So with all the messages that I send out, do people actually know what they need to do? Are they feeling safe? Are they feeling like they're being taken care of? Or do they feel like it's a dangerous world out there? 4, do they provide actionable steps? So think call to action. And 5, the very last one, is there a sense of closure? So to end on that note, I'll end with my own quote. because I believe that deep down, everyone carries the wisdom to discover the best path for themselves. So I do not prescribe any particular path. The picture is taken from one of my favorite movies, The Truman Show, and that is the exit scene. If you'd like to continue on the conversation, my practice is based in Amsterdam, but I also talk to people online. These are my contact details. I will be here for coffee, for breaks. So if you found any of the topics that I mentioned upon interesting and would like to continue the discussion, I'm happy to do that face-to-face, big here, or on the social media of your choice. Thank you very much. I believe we don't have time for questions. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you for your presentation. I would like to ask, do you have any tips? Like, how do you normally stay focused?
Okay, all right. It's to be very present and to be very, very mindful. So you notice that the more hectic the day is, the more important it is to start in a quiet way or to build in quiet moments. For me personally, because I can only answer for myself, I also practice meditation. I'm also very avid yoga practitioner. So for me, it's really important, and I do see the difference in the day depending on how I start the day. If I start in a hectic day, if I start with a phone, then it just goes that way. But it's for everyone to discover. Everyone is different.